just don't know when's a busy season. Is there a busy season?
I haven't been doing this as my sole source of income for long. It was 2 years, September.
Okay. It's been a little while.
Yeah, so I've always done it on the side, and so I didn't really know what the ebbs and flows were because I didn't have a lot of margin to it was like I could do one or two things at a time.
Yeah.
But I would say in my own experience that we're entering the slow season. I mean, I think fall things tend to pick up, but there's really not a ton of time between summer and when the holidays start as far as like people's mental capacity goes.
There's so much going on.
Especially for families who just get their kids, you just get into the routine of things and you're like, I can't take on a renovation right now.
Yeah.
Christmas is like
We got
next week.
You got, Halloween, then you got Thanksgiving, and then it's just back to back to back.
So it feels really close together. So, I mean, in my experience, I think right after January 1st, things tend to pick up. People are like ready to roll, clean out the house. They want to get their projects done. So that's usually the busiest time. And then it dissipates over the summer, which is really nice actually for me personally, just with the kids.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Probably the same thing because everyone's busy.
Yeah.
That was one thing I learned.
Well, nobody's home. Everyone's traveling. And
there's something going on.
Yeah.
There's parties. There's, the camp on the lake. There's, weddings. There's everything happens in the summer. And I learned that when we were moving back, we were thinking about joining Bellevue.
Yeah.
And, we decided not to. Obviously, we just had Kenzie, our first kid. And I was kind of glad we didn't because, we belonged to a course in Austin. We golfed, you can golf year round. It was just the two of us.
It's a little different in Syracuse.
Yeah, in Syracuse, you just don't have the time. And then you got to remember, not only are you limited to the months you can actually play, but guess what? Everything else goes on during those months. Every party, every lake, everything you're doing, it's like so concentrated. And so it's just,
Well, and then when you have school-aged kids, I mean, how old is Kenzie now?
Yeah, she's just starting to get into sports and activities.
Well, then you have to run on the school calendar. So it's like you jam all your vacations into spring break in July and August. And it's like, well, so.
That's the one thing that I'm like having a hard time is that she's in universal pre-K. So she's on the school calendar. Oh. And granted, I don't think it's the worst thing for her to miss a week or so. But it's like buying those flights during the busy breaks. I'm like, I'm paying 3X, 4X for, it's like, why don't we just go the week before?
Well, and now she's not 2 anymore. So you have to pay for a seat.
Yeah. We got 2 that we got to pay for seats now.
Yeah.
And, it's getting more and more expensive.
Adds up quick, right?
Yeah. It's fun. You mentioned 2 years that you've been doing this. Talk about up to the point where you decided to say, I'm going to do this full time.
Yeah.
And kind of just your, obviously I know you personally from a background standpoint, but talk about how you got to the point where like, I'm going to establish myself as a interior designer and I'm going to give it a go on my own.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say there's a lot of people in the interior design industry that have had really interesting journeys. So there's some people that take the traditional route of going to school for it. And, one thing leads to the next, whether they work for a firm or they work for themselves. I'd fall into the camp of having like an interesting journey as far as like, I don't have a background in interiors. So I went to school for business and English outside of Boston, worked for Fidelity Investments. After graduating, realized that like the corporate finance world was not for me. Moved home and started running Broadway Cafe in Arctic Island for my family. Not right away. There was a family friend who was in the position of management there. But then she moved to Florida and I took over and ran that for 10 years. And I don't know, life-changing experience, I guess.
How was that? Yeah, talk about that a little bit because, obviously we knew you were running it. Yeah. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sandwiches. I enjoyed the ice cream. And I'm actually very saddened that I can't get the coconut almond fudge or the Kula almond chip anymore.
Well, and your grandma used to come and she would get butter pecan and maple walnut.
She'd rave about it.
That was a special place. I mean, it was, if you aren't familiar with the Valley of Syracuse, you'd be like, well, it's just an odd place, but to have a business. But there's so many generations that live there in family homes, and there's just a lot of history there. Personally, I went to Faith Heritage, and I was grew up next door. My dad happened to hear that it was for sale. Arnie Taub was the owner. He, I believe, started it in 1949. Ran it for a long time.
Wow. Okay.
He was there. Yeah, I mean, Arctic Island's been around for a very long time. So sad to see that it's not open right now. Hopefully, it will reopen at some point, but. He just had ice cream. So he did homemade ice cream. So we took that over in 2005. I was still at school and then stayed out there for a year post-grad, moved home. So I moved home in 2008 I want to say, and ran it until 2018. And I don't know, there's days when I miss it like crazy because it's super busy, but also very, very hard. So I think that.
What made it hard? Just being like in the hospitality service industry like that?
Yeah. I mean, in Syracuse, when you're trying to run an ice cream shop, it's so weather dependent. And so your cash flow is painful at times. We also had catering, which I started once I got there. That wasn't something we always had. And that was really helpful to kind of offset the slower seasons. Much of the business was built on relationships and just repeat customers, obviously. And so there was just so much time spent out front and building relationships with our regular clients and our customers. And I think that it's just such a hands-on business. And there's so much to do because there was the Arctic Island side, which is the ice cream. And then there was the Broadway Cafe side, and then there was the catering. And then I just think the building was old. So there was all of that too. So like you become a custodian, you become like a contractor. And I remember when I first learned how to like deal with a coolant and all of that. And I'm like, I still actually not too long ago, I had a reminder go off on my phone to clean the compressors. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like I've been gone for years and I forgot to delete the reminder. And I just like always ignore the reminders, but you have to learn how to like care for all of your machines and clean ice cream machines. And it's just, the job was never done. So
staffing,
staffing
you're
was hard.
With like high school, maybe college.
And we had so many great people. I mean, that was probably my favorite part, was just getting to know the kids. And I mean, I was 21 when I started at 22 when I started doing what I was doing. And so there wasn't a huge age gap, but as time went on, we developed a really great team. And I think like there's so many marriages that have come out of that place. It's crazy. Cool. People that met and, fell in love and they're still married and they have families. And so I love that Broadway is a part of so many people's stories, including mine. I mean, that's where I met Ian, but yeah, he was a customer. I keep saying client because that's what I do now. But
he was a client that loved chocolate ice cream.
Right. And that's where my brother met his wife. And so it was just like, just high volume of people through the door every day. And so there was a lot that needed to be done. And I think that at the end of the day, like just the amount of machines we had and the amount of upkeep. And then we did homemade ice cream. And sometimes that would take 30 hours a week. And I was the only one that did it for a time. So that on top of doing all the scheduling and paying the bills and ordering and doing inventory and then training. And I spent so much time training because I just felt like that was the most important part of it. Mm-hmm. Like training your people to have really great customer service skills and be able to answer questions and all of that. So it was just time consuming. Yeah. You just never felt like you could quite get a grip. But it was great. I learned so much and I wouldn't trade the experience for the world. So,
but at one point you were like, this isn't going to be my career for the rest of my life.
Well, so the tipping point was that, so I had Crew, he's 11 now. And then I had Chloe, they're 20 months apart. And Chloe she was very ill when she was born. So we had a lot of complications at the end of my pregnancy. And then we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And we had an emergency C-section with her. She had something called high drops, which is where there's additional fluid like in 2 or more parts of the baby's body. And they told me I was 32 weeks pregnant when I found out. And they were like, it's one of those things where we sometimes never find out why this happens. And a few different things could happen. She could, unfortunately, she could pass before you have her. She could pass away right after you deliver, or she could be fine. And by the grace of God, she was fine. Yeah. And so she was in the NICU for 3 weeks. And then the year following her birth, we just spent so much time at the doctor. I mean, that's like all we did. And I couldn't run a business at the same time. And so I may or may not have had a few breakdowns that year. I was like, this isn't working. Yeah. So I told my family, I was like, I just can't do it anymore. So we hired somebody and we overlapped for 6 months and then he took over. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that someone who bought it?
No, he was a manager.
He's working for you guys. Yeah. And that's when you stopped, but then you've since sold it.
Yes. Yeah. So I think about the time I let my family know that I needed to spend some more time with Chloe, they listed it. Okay. And then we overlapped for 6 months and I couldn't tell you how long he was there before it sold to the new owner. Yeah.
I can only imagine, you're talking about the stresses of the job itself and then getting the news like that, when you're pregnant with your daughter. Yeah. I mean, obviously we're very fortunate that, she's healthy and it all ended up being okay. But it's hard enough for one of those to happen, let alone at the same time.
Right.
And so I can only imagine that you're like, I gotta step away.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like the only reason why everything went as well as it did with the business is because I had managers who were just a complete gift. I mean, they were so great, and they stepped right in, and they were really good to begin with, but then they really stepped up when the time came. And so I'm very grateful for them, because otherwise I'm not sure what would have happened. I literally couldn't be there. So yeah.
At what point in that journey was interior design on your radar of like, I think I could do this, or, at least I have a passion for it, or I have a knack for it? Was that early on? Was that not until after you stepped away and you're like, all right, what else can I do? Talk about that.
So I've always had a passion for it and interest in it. I mean, Gianna, we have I have these, I don't know, probably like 10 pieces of graph paper taped together from when we were in like second grade, where we drew our dream houses and like colored them in. And it took us forever one summer to do it. But so, I mean, as far back as like second grade, I loved it. Used to move my room around, repainted it constantly. So it's always been an interest. But then in college, I started having people were like, oh, could you help me with this? Or, what about this? And then I didn't do it very much when I lived in Boston, because I didn't really have any relationships. I had just moved there from college. And then when I moved home, the same thing happened. Just people would ask here and there. So I kind of dipped in it, dipped out. It was really hard to do it on the side of like the cafe,
Yeah.
But there would always be just little things here and there that would be of interest, and I would help a friend or whatever. So then someone connected me with a couple people who were looking to do a new build. And that was really the turning point. So they were gracious enough to hire me. We had, a lot of fun, and they were awesome clients. And so we did a new build with Stonehammer Homes, and it was such a good experience. And so after that, I had Emma, my fourth, and my husband and I, Ian and I, which, by the way, he wanted you to know that he's really disappointed you didn't invite him to come today.
Hey. He'll be on the next one.
Yeah.
We'll get him on here.
Let Luke know I wanted to come. But anyways, we decided it was like kind of a now or never type of thing. So it was just hard to do it. Like, and he, at one point he even said to me, he's like, you don't even like design. What are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't like it because I do it between the hours of like 10 p.m. and 1 a.m.
When I don't want to be doing anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And my children are going to wake up any moment again. So we just decided it was a good time to do that.
Well, it sounds like people have been asking you for years, whether it's your opinion or maybe like little side jobs, it sounds like, throughout the years.
Yeah.
Is that just because they saw, your own space and were like, or, Kristen has a knack for this? Like how, it's kind of random to just say, hey, can you help me with this? Like they must have known that you were at least, they saw a skill or they saw something in you.
I think, I mean, our house, like, I don't know, we live in Strathmore, and we've been there for 15 years, and of course I think my house is beautiful, but I don't think I don't know. I don't know why people asked. I guess that like one thing led to another, and just in chatting, maybe I would let people know that I was doing this or that.
Okay.
And they would be like, oh, everyone needs, not everyone, but a lot of people, they just don't know which direction to go. Or even if they have really great taste, some people are indecisive, or they just can't decide between A or B, and they just need a little bit of input,
Yeah.
So some of it was that, and some of it was kind of like from the ground up. So
yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Renewal by Andersen of Central New York, the #1 window and door company in America. Winter is coming, and there's no better time to upgrade. Their energy-efficient windows keep warm in, the cold out, and your energy bills low. Schedule your free consultation today by clicking the link in the show notes.
I can only imagine, and I wanted to talk about this. So you establish your company, Kristen Cuthbert Design, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably getting clients all over the spectrum, because it's just kind of a broad concept, interior design.
Right.
And I think you have a great website. I think the list of services you offer, you have like the mini session, you have the day session, and then you have like the full on, like, we're doing a house or whatever it may be. But even within that, like, I'm sure you get clients that you sit with that are like, I want this, this, and this, and this, and this. And you're like, okay, like, do you really need my help? Or like, I'll help point you or give you a few options, and you really pick. And then you get someone like me where I'd be like, Kristen, you
do what you do best. I have no idea. I'll just give you a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah. Well, you would be my ideal client.
Okay. That's what I mean. I mean, I don't even know what you would be looking for.
Yeah.
That's actually a question I have here is like, how do you get the most out of your service? Is it that just to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, like broad, scope.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
Sure. I mean, everybody's different. And I think some people have they want to be involved at a different level than maybe the next client. So it just depends. Some people know exactly what they want. Some people have no idea. Some people have a lot of interest in the process. And some people are more like, I don't have the time or the interest. And I trust you. So you just do it.
Yeah.
So.
And you prefer the latter.
I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? I think everyone wants autonomy in a way.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, I mean, there are clients who you want, of course, at the end of the day, for anything that I would choose on behalf of them. So even though you would say to me, like, I trust you, do what you do, I would do a lot of discovery before I start the process so that I know that what I'm choosing is for you. And while I have a natural aesthetic, for sure, I have clients whose natural aesthetic is very far from mine. But my job is not to put my natural aesthetic in their home. It's to cultivate a space that's specifically for them. So I think that there's a lot of, famous designers that clearly like you can recognize their work, and I think that's great. But I also think when you're growing a business, you need to be flexible, and your skill set is in listening and communicating and trying to pull out of, what is it that they want? Because sometimes people don't know. Yeah. So there's a big portion of the process that starts with figuring out what it is that the client wants, and function is usually the first part of that. Because if your space doesn't work for you, then it's just going to aggravate you. It doesn't matter how good it looks,
Talk a little bit more about that discovery phase. Because when I hear that term, I think of we've had Margaret Dietz on here, and she does like brand design, and she has a great discovery phase where it's and I've been part of it where we kind of just brain dump everything we're thinking about the business, and she just thinks on it. She lets it marinate in her mind, and she gives us these different brand ideas, different colors, all these different things. Talk about it with interior design. Like, how would you if we're in a discovery call here, what are you asking me? What are some things you want to know about your client to be able to service them well?
Yeah. So, I mean, the process starts with a quick phone call. So if somebody reaches out, whether, sometimes it's just through text message because it's a referral. Sometimes they'll go to the website and fill out a form. It's all different ways that they, so typically we schedule a phone call and I'll ask them questions that are a little less discovery, but more, timeline and investment, and then scope of work. I tell them a little bit about our process, our 3 levels of service that we offer. And then if it sounds like it's a good fit, we go from there with a consultation. So when we go on site for a consultation, that's like, I'm just taking it all in. So I'll look at their existing space, ask them what they love about it. Is there something you can point out that's like your favorite part of your house? Do you have a corner that you feel really good about, whereas the rest of the house needs some help? It's something like that. Take a look at what they're wearing. I look at their Facebook page. I look at their Instagram. I try to
Stalk them a little.
Yeah. Because believe it or not, there's little things that I can pick up on that are like, I don't think they would go. I don't think that's something they would care for, because I've, seen them gravitate towards this or whatever. I do that. And then they fill out a form that's, it's not super long, but it's long enough where I ask things even like, where have you traveled? Is there a special place that, you like to incorporate in your environment or something like that? And then at some point in the process, once we start the process, I send them a favorite things form. And that's really so that I can kind of love on them throughout the process and bring them their favorite treats for a presentation, or make sure that their kids, it's helpful to know if their kids have allergies or whatever, so that whatever I'm bringing into their house is appropriate. And so just gathering all that information, what's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite color, favorite plant? All of those things together make up a better picture of who this person is and what they value. So ask them what if you have free time, what do you like to do? Because that informs how they're going to live in their space and what matters to them. So,
and this is usually in casual conversation. You try to pick up on things.
It's a combination of things, yeah.
Or do you have them fill out a form too?
There's a form, and there's also a lot of conversation and a lot of as we walk through the house, I'll say things like, "Oh, what do you think about?" And it's very collaborative. So, when I come in and say, how about this?" It's asking them how they feel about something. There's a lot of those types of questions. How would you feel about this? What would you say if I said, I think the best thing for the corner is that, and then as time goes on, you figure out their preferences. And then by the time you get to the first presentation, you can move forward with confidence and say, this is what I think is the best fit for you. Now, that being said, there's always revisions. You're not going to nail it sometimes it goes great. And a lot of times people will be, oh, I love this, or I'm not sure about that pattern, or I think that it would work better for us to have an oval table without corners because I have a child who bumps their head all the time, like whatever it is. So
I'm thinking of how I would probably approach this is that you would ask me things and I'd be like, it doesn't matter until I saw it.
Yeah.
And so you almost have to keep putting things in front of them for them to kind of narrow down what they actually want. Like it's hard for me to even, I think someone like my wife would be able to tell you kind of what she's interested in. And you could probably, after talking to her for an hour, give her, some great ideas that she would love.
Yeah.
Not saying I wouldn't love your ideas. I just wouldn't even know how to express what I would like. Because I don't know what I would like. And so is it sometimes harder to get that out of clients than it is others?
It can be. And there's some people that are so visual. Like I have a client right now who I love very much. But every time I talk to her about something, she's like, I need to see it. And so I'll find an inspo picture or something like it and send it to her. And then she's like, oh, okay. And so sometimes you just need that. So you have to have kind of a bank of different ways you can show a client so that they feel really comfortable. But also you have to do that so that by the time you get to the end, like they know what they're getting and you're not surprising them with anything. Because I think that there can sometimes be miscommunications as far as like, well, I thought it was this and it's not. And that happens for sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not like, this is it, we're done, right? I mean, it's always a back and forth.
Right. Well, and a great design process takes time. Yeah. So that's the other thing is like, if you really want a home that's cultivated for you and your family, the way you live, your preferences, you just have to let it grow because your designer, unless you know them well, they can't come in and get to know you instantly. Also, for them to do their research and to pull together great concepts and present them to you, to give you some time to process and get back with revisions. And then you go and you source all those things, pull it together, get a budget. And by the time you go to the procurement phase where you're ordering everything, you should know each other pretty well.
I have a quote from your website that I liked a lot. And I want to read it and then kind of talk about it and get your 2 cents on it. But
okay.
Did you know that great design is clinically proven to improve health? Our brains are hardwired to need positive aesthetic experiences in order to reduce stress. That is why when you experience a place that functions optimally and personally, reflects nature and possesses a variety of texture and or color, you never want to leave. Your brain and body quite literally need it.
It's kind of a mouthful.
It's a mouthful, but it's
I should edit that down.
It's a good way to look at it. It's because it's true.
Yeah.
And even though I've never thought about it like that, it's pretty true. And I think it's a great thing to have on your website as an interior designer. When you think of that, like, I think of, I'm sure you do every room in the house.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Like, or you've done every sort of room in a house.
Yes.
Is kind of what I meant. To get the most out of what I just read, like what is it the kitchen? Is it the living room? It's probably where you spend the most time, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But like, what would you suggest? Hey, we really want to do one room in our house really nice. Like how would you approach that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's such a huge return on investment, I guess, for the spaces obviously that you use the most. So I think that it comes down to who's living in the space in order to best answer the question. So for somebody like you or myself, who we have, busy families with small children.
The house is always a mess.
Yeah. I think your utility spaces are a really good place to start. I don't know if that's like the space that I would recommend doing if you only have one space to do. But in my experience, if you don't have great setup and function in your utility spaces, it affects every other space in your house. So for example, if you do not have a mudroom or a place to store your backpacks and your shoes and your coats and all of your school papers and your mail and, then it's on your kitchen counter.
It just bleeds
It's
over.
on your dining room table. Yeah. It's on the living room floor. And it's like, okay, now we've overtaken 3 rooms when we probably could tackle this problem with having a really efficient mudroom. So
that's interesting because you wouldn't
When you think of interior design, I don't think the mudroom.
The interesting thing about interior design is it's very different from decorating. It studies human behavior and how it interacts with your spaces, which is not the same thing necessarily as just decorating. I'm not saying it's just decorating, but like there's a lot to be said about the function and how humans move throughout and use and interact with the spaces that they're in. And so if you know your client well and you know how they live, then you can make a really good recommendation as to what would be the biggest impact for them. I do think the kitchens now are very expensive. Everything's gone up. I don't know. I mean, my husband and I were just having this conversation the other day. He's like, I just don't think that we would get, it wouldn't be like a $40,000 or $50,000. It wouldn't feel like a $50,000 impact to get new cabinets because we're still like our layout is fine. We just need new cabinets.
Yeah.
But it's like, is that where we really want? I don't know, because it's the value. Maybe it would be better to add on.
There's other options too, right? You can maybe go standard cabinets and make them look decent.
You can, yeah, but cabinets are expensive. Yeah.
Stock cabinets. Trying to make them fit.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. I think that it's, I really do think it comes down to who's using the space and how they're using it to be able to best answer your question.
Do you think in order to do your job well, you need to be conscious of what the cost is to your client?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, do you think, the frugality, right? Being able to essentially get the most out of their dollar. Like, is that something you kind of talk to them about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I would say that 9 times out of 10, when I ask someone what their investment is, they say they don't know. So
like a lot of money they're willing to put in.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are like, I have no idea how much this is going to cost. And that's kind of what I need you to tell me. But if they don't have a number that they're not willing to go over, it's kind of hard to know if it's a good fit. But I think that a lot of times people don't know, and it adds up so quickly too. So it's a challenge. But yeah, for sure, we definitely giving them an itemized budget is part of the process typically.
What are some things you would spend money on, and what are some things you could maybe not cut corners but be a little more frugal on?
Personally, or for clients?
I guess both. Yeah, for clients, right? Like if someone's looking to do work or decorate or in design.
Sure. So I would say it goes back to who they are and what they value, because I think everybody values different things. Everyone also has different people in their spaces. Are there pets? Are there no pets? So like that would inform what kind of rug I tell you to get. Maybe you need a rug that you're going to be willing to trash in a couple of years because you've got a lot of
in the wash.
What I always tell people is they're like, I really would like to change the feel of my space, but I don't have a large budget at all. I tell people to start with lighting because I think that makes the biggest impact the fastest. So typically, I always tell, I don't care to use overhead lighting. Can feel kind of cold. I mean, certainly there's spaces where you need to because of task.
What about these bad boys?
These are great. Yeah. Put these in your living room.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can layer lighting in and it completely changes your space. And so turn off the overhead, go buy a $90, $60 lamp at Target and you've completely changed your room.
I notice that. It bothers me sometimes when we have like the bright light.
You can almost like hear them.
Yeah. And it's like, especially at night when I'm like, we're trying to wind down. Exactly. I always turn the lamp on and turn those off.
Yeah. And put all of your switches on dimmers. That's a huge, that's something you can change. I think that investing in window treatments is a great thing to do, especially if you need to use them. So if you need blackout shades for your kiddos, it can just completely change the feel of a space by putting some tailored drapes in. I love rugs. Ian makes fun of me. He's like, tells me that I have a rug graveyard in the basement because I switch them out all the time. And I'm like, do you mind putting that in the basement? And he's like, oh my gosh, like really? But I love artwork and I love rugs. Those are probably my favorite personally. And I think that you can, if you're on a budget, another recommendation would be to choose a color palette for your house because then you can switch things throughout your spaces without spending $1. And it feels fresh and new to you. Oh. So like you could switch your rugs if they fit, scale wise and switch out some seasonal throw pillows and maybe move some lamps around. And then it feels like you've had a little bit of a refresh.
So to have like some consistency through each room, that way it's so easy just to kind of swap in and out.
Yeah.
Do most people have that or is there?
Some
Usually like
people
a
do.
clash.
Yeah. Some people do. I mean, there's a huge range of people's, I would say, both interest and abilities in their interiors. Some people don't value it at all, but I think that's just because they haven't experienced it on the other side. I think that if you live in a space that's built for you, not necessarily the structure itself, but if your furnishings are pulled together and you have a layer of finishing decor and lighting that's for you and the way you live, you'd never want to go back.
I got a few more quotes here. They're just general quotes, and I think it'd be fun to kind of read them to you.
Sure.
Just get your thoughts, see whether you agree, disagree, if you want to elaborate at all. First one, luxury must be comfortable. Otherwise, it's not luxury.
Oh, yeah.
Coco Chanel.
I agree.
Is that something that you kind of keep in mind too? Like you can make something look great. It's kind of like what you said before.
Yeah.
Like if it's not comfortable though, then why is it in your house almost?
Well, right. I think yes, 100%.
Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works.
Yes,
Steve Jobs.
for sure. For sure.
Is that a challenge to make those two things connect? Like, yes, aesthetically, this is exactly what I want, but also it needs to function how I want.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think that it's when you're trying to marry existing furnishings with new, where sometimes it's like, it's just not going to work. And so you have to swap some things out. But I think that the best spaces are cultivated over time too. So I don't think you have to buy all new things to make it work. I just think you need to use a little creativity and a little muscle.
Yeah.
And I think that the most beautiful places have pieces that you have grabbed from here or there, and they tell a story instead of having, everything off of a showroom floor.
Yeah.
So, but that takes time. And sometimes people aren't willing to have that. They just want it done now. And that's a different look, and that's okay. But personally, I just love the spaces where it's like, oh, that was my grandmother's and we refinished it and now it's in my front entry. Or this dresser was in my son's nursery and now it's in my grandkids' room. And I mean, I think that's so cool. And there's such a thing as heirloom furniture because it's built so well. It stands the test of time, and that's an investment, but that's a specific client who sees the value. So it depends.
I feel like social media probably doesn't help with that.
No.
I feel like a lot of people just see, the basic what's popular. Like I want that.
Right.
As opposed
and
to
you
kind of like you
get,
said, curating it over time and having your own taste to it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you see these beautiful houses that are, they're in their final stages and they're these styled pictures and it's the reveal and people are like, well, I want that. And it's like, well, what's your timeline? It's like, well, I wish we would have started a month or two ago. And it's like, well, I get that, but
we didn't.
Yeah. Custom pieces can take a really long time. Even when you order, 12, 17, whatever weeks. Sure. And then you have to wait for everything to be delivered and install it. And then there's a level, a layer of finishing decor and that needs to be edited. And so it's an art. It takes some time.
Yeah. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci.
I would say yes and no. I mean, I think there's some things that are really simple. And because of if you're talking about something in interiors, I think that there's a lot to be said for white space. You can use that very artistically, and something simple can be very striking because of that.
I was just going to say some of the things you pointed out earlier, just a quick swap, little things you can probably kind of come in quite a bit under budget and your client be thrilled. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize I could just do that and, change the lighting, change the rug, do a couple of things. And it's like, totally change the space.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, if it's not going to be like for the mini design session, I love going into people's houses and they're like, we just need to refresh and it's not working for us. And we shop the house and use things that they already have. And at the end of 2 hours, they have a completely different space. And so that's super fun because it's so rewarding for me, but it's also of huge value to them. So I love doing that. But I also think that, to speak to the quote, like there's that one side of it that we just said, but then I just think like, I just find collections of things to be beautiful and like the whole maximalist design, there's the minimalist and then there's the max. I think they're both beautiful, but I think that they're beautiful if they're done intentionally. I mean, there's such a thing as just having like a whole bunch of stuff. So
for sure. Last one, and we've already kind of touched on this, but probably my favorite. Be faithful to your own taste because nothing you really like is ever out of style. Billy Baldwin.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I think so. I've talked about this before with people who are like, I have a room full of things that I've bought that still have the tags on them or are still in the boxes, and I don't like any of them. And so I've spent all this money, and none of my walls have art on them or mirrors or decorations and whatever. And so oftentimes I'll look at their collection of things and there's some sort of commonality between all of them. And it's like, okay, so clearly you gravitate to gold or whatever it is, And I think that sometimes you can like something, but the execution of it is what makes it beautiful. So maybe you have all of these small pieces of artwork and they're kind of hung like haphazardly, but if you bring them all together, then all of a sudden you have this like statement wall. And so I just think sometimes just thinking a little bit outside of the box as far as how you can apply those things that you love in your space is really what makes the difference.
Yeah.
Because I do think that everybody has a natural aesthetic, and sometimes it is just really bad. Yeah. sometimes it's great, and they just need a little direction for how to install those pieces in their home in a thoughtful way.
To your point, if there's one thing they love, maybe it just takes some tweaking, surround it with some different items, whatever it may be. And that's what makes it look a lot better, because it can be that family heirloom. It could be a piece of furniture where it's like, yeah, that's not the best looking thing sitting in the corner right now. Yeah. But, we changed the rug. All of a sudden we move it over here. We add something to the side of it.
Yeah.
And it can really kind of make it pop. Or maybe it's just not the center anymore and it's a nice little detail.
Yeah. And I think that, like, to your point, oftentimes if you ask some questions about why do you love this piece so much, something really meaningful comes out. And it's like, oh, it reminds me of when I was a child and I went to this place and this painting looks like that beach that my family and I sat on, or this piece was my grandmother's or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like you should have pieces in your house that tell a story and that all together make it your space and it's no one else's. And I think that the personalization of those pieces and the way that you install them in your home is important because, yeah, sometimes standalone, it might look a little odd, but there are ways, artful and thoughtful ways that you can incorporate pretty much everything. So, yeah.
That's funny. So you got the pieces that if someone's like, oh, where was that from? And you have a story behind it. Then you also have the pieces like, oh, where's that from? It's like, oh, half off at Home Goods. It's like another brag. Not a brag, but it's funny how you can have.
It's so rare that you would find a house that's like all put together at once, and decorated all at once. And hopefully there's a little bit of a story and therefore a little bit more soul in each of those spaces because it's so unique to the people that live there. So
someone's listening and they're like, I got to talk to Kristen. I need some ideas or I need some work done. What's the best way to reach out to you? What's the best way to just approach, and have a conversation about how you may be able to help them?
There's a contact form on my website, KristenCuthbertDesign.com, where you can always message me through Instagram at Kristen Cuthbert Design.
Perfect.
I had to remember what it was.
And then, you'll find it.
You'll find it. Yeah.
And, just kind of, hey, love to set up a call. Is it usually just an initial quick call?
Yeah,
and
sure.
then you discuss things and then you decide
answer any questions that they have and, see if we're a good fit. And, but I would encourage anybody to try to find somebody. It doesn't need to be me. Interiors are considered a luxury service.
But don't do it yourself.
Well, if you don't know, if you know your space needs something, because I think it's really important. I think that you can change your life by changing your space. Going back to
the quote I read on your website.
Yeah,
and I 100% agree. For someone who has no like taste or background in design, it hits home. I think anyone who listened to that, it's like, oh, that's so true.
Yeah, and I think that it's seen, like anything with your house for the most part is seen as a luxury service. It's like, if you have a leaky faucet, you need to fix it. Or if your fridge is broken, that's function for sure. But when it comes to aesthetics and design, I think that it is a for sure luxury industry. But I think that when it comes down to it, doing whatever you can to cultivate a space that you love is so important for you and your family. And so if you don't know what to do next, then find somebody who can at least give you some advice. There's so many podcasts out there, all of that. And of course, I would love to help.
Well, thanks, Kristen, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.